चालू है ना?
ये लो।
चालू होना है।
Good morning, one and all present over here. My name is Saurabh Dharmendra Pagare, and I will be your host for today's national seminar on gender sensitization for equity and social justice for women. So moving on forward with hello. Yeah, I hope everybody can hear me. Yes. Good morning, sir. Yes. Like I was saying, my name is Saurabh Dharmendra Pagare, and I will be your host for today's national seminar on gender sensitization for equity and social justice for women. So moving on forward with the seminar, I would like to just give a short brief about Nabard. So Nabard is development bank of the nation for fostering rural prosperity, and the mission is to promote sustainable and equitable agriculture and rural development through participative financial and non-financial interventions, innovations, technology, and institutional development for security, prosperity. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Dharmesh sir, the principal of Adia College, and I would like to welcome him and just tell him to give our welcome address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I welcome Madam Vatsala Madam for being a part of this gender sensitization seminar. And see, today's time is that equality, which is the main purpose of our Indian Constitution. So on base of that, I hope that today's learner will come to know how the gender sensitization there, how equality to be brought, and how the woman is to be par with the society. When somebody speak about a gender, That word itself is somewhat no, bias, means social or socially different person. When you say sex, it's okay, it's a biological difference that nature has given. But gender is made by the society, that upper part is a male dominating society and female is always being a vulnerable class. So today's we will legislation has also made so many efforts to sensitize and make the woman in the mainstream of a society. So how it has happened? What are the journey of a woman to get its own right? We will learn from Madam. So I welcome Vatsala Madam, the principal of SNDT Women University, to focus on this subject. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, sir.
So now let me introduce Dr. Vatsala Shukla, our keynote speaker for today. So Dr. Vatsala Shukla, she is a passionate women's rights educator, a researcher, a feminist, and a teacher by profession. She is trained in women's studies and political science. Her passion for women's rights and gender equality and ceaseless longing for a powerful medium to portray countless voices and stories of women from margins and minorities brought her into the fascinating world of documentary filmmaking. She has 16 years of experience in teaching, research, training, mentoring, project guidance, and consultancy of the University of Allahabad, ILS Law College, RCWS, SNDT University. Her publications and research interests are broad areas of Indian politics, Indian foreign policy, gender and politics, urban governments, women leadership, reservation, staff policies. She has presented papers in conferences of Quebec, Toronto, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Bali, and Cambodia. I would like to welcome our keynote speaker once again, Dr. Vatsala Shukla, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for such a generous introduction.
Thank you.
At the outset, I would just like to mention and my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Jitendra Aherkar for inviting me to interact with students on this very significant topic on social justice for women, gender sensitization for equity, which is the topic of today's e-seminar. I would also like to thank Principal Idea College of Law, and I look forward to all the students' active participation. And if any issue related to any concept or any clarity is required, so you can just stop me in between and let's discuss on that. That's not a big issue. So coming back to, so how much time do I have? Because it's already 9:15, so 30 minutes should I take? 30 minutes, would it be okay? Because it's already 9:15. 30 minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Fine. So when we talk about gender sensitization for equity and social justice for women, let me flag off certain challenges or the critical questions which are very important before we get into that, what can be done, what has been done, what interventions are available, and how we have also succeeded. So that's the journey. That will lead to some more. So now the critical questions are that when we talk about gender equality, when we talk about social justice for women, so what has been done? And basically, when we say gender sensitization, so how we can raise awareness about equality, how we can raise awareness about the concerns of marginalized sections of the society, how system can be socio-economic, political system can be more inclusive, can be more diverse, can be more, what can I say, more democratic, more participatory. So these are the norms when we talk about equity. So these ideas of participatory democracy, participatory governance are something which comes into our mind. And gender sensitization is something that how we can raise, how we can understand, how we can make sensitivity towards all these issues for making more inclusive, making more participatory, making more diverse society. Today's discussion, I would particularly discuss women's political equality. So when we talk about social equity or the women's political rights or women's equality within the broader sphere of politics, so that is something which is problematic, and the critical questions which I would like to ask that can we have equal political influence and power when gender inequality continues in political representation and leadership? And how can we feminize politics? I'll elaborate on this specific term, feminize politics, later on. However, before that, let's look at certain statistics which are very problematic and which are very shocking also. But then this is the reality of today's world. When we talk, when we think of political equality, and when we see that women's political representation is nominal, it's less. So let's look at some of the statistics that women's heads of the government, they are only 6.2%. Women ministers, just 21.3%. Women health ministers, only 24.7%. And these are the 2020 statistics. And women's finance and budget ministers, only 13.2%. This is across the globe, 13.2%. And seats held by women in national parliament is just 24.9% when we constitute 50% of the population. And elected seats held by women in local government, it's just 36.3%. And so this is something, and when we look at the state of women's political equality in India, it is untenable, just untenable. And the fact remains that Indian women constitute nearly 14% of MPs in India. And that is, in fact, below the world average, which is 24%. And MPs and MLAs together across India, they constitute just 9%. And of all 28 states and 9 union territories, only 13 states and UTs have women chief ministers so far. So this is the state of women's political equality. We are discussing this equity, women's political state, equal participation in politics. And this is the state. So can we have equal political influence and power in terms of policies, in terms of decisions, in terms of women's concerns, which should be taken care of, which should be represented in the form of a budget, form of major safety concerns, a form of employment needs of women. So all these issues and concerns need to be represented through the policies, through the schemes, through, and so this is the state. So it's very difficult that with this very much lesser representation of women in political powers, political circles and government, and it continues, this inequality continues in political representation across the globe. So now the question is that how can we think of feminizing politics? So when we say, Principal Sir was talking about that we have so many laws, legislations, and which talks about, so CEDAW is just one document that which talks about that Commission for which talks about the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, which was brought by UN in 1979. So it talks about elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. We have Beijing document, which had come into being in 1995. So all these documents, they talk about that there should be, I mean, as far as the political equality is concerned, political representation is concerned. Then we have, and they also talk about that there should be a specific quota for women. So that can be a sort of measure which was proposed to address this specific issue of political inequality of women in politics. So there are many countries which provide different types of reservations or quota through constitutional arrangements, through their legislative amendments, constitutional amendments. We also provide 50% in most 80%, in almost 80% of the Indian states. They provide 80% of the 50% of the reservation in their local self-governance, that is municipal corporations and village local self-governance. So, but then at upper level, there is no reservation for women. So this is the state, and reservation is just one way of what should we say, that intervention, which has been very successful. And in fact, this measure was thought of that unless we have reservation in politics, people will not allow you to enter into politics. So that's something. Now I would like to, I would also like to talk about, sir was talking about the inclusive politics, the gender and sex. So when we talk about feminizing politics, it's not just about women's entry into it. It's about that how women's, and for that matter, the concerns of other marginalized sections of society, the concerns of all genders, across genders, how those concerns, how those issues are well taken care of. And it's not only the women, but then these concerns, whosoever is representing the society, the part of the government, the part of the decision-making process, they should be sensitive enough. So that's something which talks about feminizing politics. So now we have moved beyond that sex, gender, and so the inclusive politics so is something which talks about diversified government, participatory government, and which is very inclusive, which takes care of during pandemic. We have seen that how different leaders. So it was like that: think leader, think lady. Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. There were Germany's Premier also, Angela Merkel. We have in India also, there is Kerala model, there are other. So at different levels, at local self-governance levels, at municipal levels, people, and so they were talking about that how participatory, bottom-up approach, diversified leadership is something that's the need of the hour. It needs to be sensitive enough. And this is something that we talk about, that how that sensitization can happen, which can be developed in the form of a different kind of leadership, and which is very sensitive, which is based on local experience, which is based on including everybody, the marginalized, the disadvantaged sections of the society, the deprived sections of the society, including women, transgender communities, that how those concerns, those issues and challenges which they face, that can be taken. So how leadership can be more plural, how it can be transformed into something which is very sensitive to the needs of this contemporary time. So we have all these things, but the practical experiences are something which are very important. And this is the area when we talk about women leadership, or we talk about equality or women's equal political participation. So now the challenge is that we don't have, this area is something, especially the urban governance area is something which is not adequately researched about. Studies are not available in that manner. Academic studies I'm talking about. And the other thing is that we need stories. We need fresh narratives. We need that how women are, because you cannot rely on the statistics, on the studies which has happened 20 years back. If you look at last 2-3 years since pandemic time, everything has changed. It has influenced everything, and the kind of impact this specific event has brought in our life, in all activities, in all behaviors, in the way we interact. We are sitting in this space. So this space is not this interaction through virtual space, is also something which has, now it has come to stay with us, whether we like it or not. There are limitations, but then the kind of changes it has brought in our life. So that is something. So we need the experiences of women, experiences of political women, that how they have exercised, they have been exercising agency with confidence, with courage. So their stories, and what are the newer challenges? Because when we talk about urban space, political space, with technology, with newer kind of interventions, newer kind of employment opportunities, so new issues are emerging. So how women's experiences, or for that matter, women elected representatives' experiences, their challenges, which are very important, they need to be recorded, they need to be mainstream, and accordingly, we can think of that, yes, what kind of. Here, I would like to mention that we have done a study and at the Research Center for Women's Studies, and this is about, that study has included 50 women corporators, women elected representatives narratives, and which is based on their own experiences. And this was conducted very recently, 2018 only, the report was published. And so these 50 women, elected women representatives, their challenges, their childhood, their support system from the party, and also different issues which they have faced within the corporation, from their own colleagues, from their own political parties. So this is something that means that how we can allow a space which is more sensitive. And this is despite that there is 50% reservation in municipal corporation, vide 2011 Maharashtra Act, that there. So women in, when you talk about BMC, when we talk about this MCGM, so there are more than 50% women, almost 60% women are there. So they outnumber men, despite the issues, the criticalities of this. When we talk about equality, they don't find them equal. However, things have changed. Their journey is has been remarkable, and also through reservation, at least they could enter. Now the next, with this is just the beginning of something, beginning of their entry. But this with this women's entry, it's not that they have achieved everything. Right? The next is that how this political equality, or this opportunity to enter into political field through reservation, how it can be transformed into true equality, means the entry of these women into truly equal active political space. When I say truly equal active political space, that means where decisions are taken, where budget is prepared, keeping women's or marginalized sections of the society's interest, welfare, and challenges in their mind. So how that can happen? Nabard is doing a very good job in that how they can be through different schemes, through different programs, how they can be, whether it is livelihood training, skill generation, income generation training. So they are doing a very good job. So this way, how this can be, I mean, as far as the gender awareness or sensitivity training that can be provided, I would just give some of the case studies which I have interviewed during the part of this major project. A couple of stories which talk about these challenges in terms of, despite that they are mayors, they are the part of, they are representing their area, and very senior women, 5 times, 6 times they have won these elections. So, and they talked about that how they could also face these kind of challenges related to gender insensitivity on the part of bureaucracy, on the part of municipal officers, on the part of, I mean, larger community you can talk about. So there was this, I'll just take the names of these prominent ladies as well. So Vishakha Raut, she's former mayor, and she says that, so it was the when we talk about reservation, so actually reservation is also SC, ST, OBC reservation. And then within that, so 50% reservation, and within these categories also there is 50% reservation for women from the category of SC, ST, and OBC. And additionally, for the post of mayor, these reservations are valid in rotation. So 2012, there was this mayor seat was reserved for Dalit women. And so Vishakha Raut very clearly, she talks about that there was a woman mayor, and that too from SC community, because the seat was reserved for women. They will not allow women to head municipal corporation unless there is this compulsion, and compulsion in the form of reservation. And it doesn't matter whether you are competent. I mean, competency is also something which is very problematic, because competency is very subjective. Because in politics, when you talk about, so competency is something that politics centers around maleness and masculinity. So if you are authoritative, if you have hard power, if you speak like that, if you are loud, if you know, so those things are taken for granted, that this is, if you don't have these attributes, so you are misfit for this thing, and which is very problematic. So gender and politics discourse, and throughout the feminist scholarship, they have problematized this conception of politics, that this is something which is very problematic, and women's experiences, the soft power, the participatory approach, people-centric approach, the inclusive approach is also something that needs to, but because when women are there, when women head, so women also feel comfortable in sharing their views, in sharing the problems they are facing in their area, so that if there is a representative which is sensitive enough, which is who is women, so it makes a lot of difference. So so that was this thing. Then there was this recent, this Kishori Pavemaker. So when I have interviewed, she talked about that, yes, these are the things, and she is very, I mean, powerful, and the kind of leadership she is providing. She has narrated an incident that during the Nirbhaya, this thing, not Nirbhaya, that Shakti Mill case, that photojournalist, when she was, that case was settled. So she said that that area and the entire premise is something which was not well lit. There were no street lights, there were no, but it was very dark, and which was very unsafe for women. So she has taken this initiative that we will just install all these street lights and poles and all these things. So she was suggested from the municipal officers, and they said that no, this is not this doesn't come under the jurisdiction of BMC, because electricity is something that we cannot do it. So she said that when roads belong to this municipal corporation. So how can you say that installing these poles on the road is something which is something? She said, no, we will argue for it, and we will make that area well it. And she did it. So that's something that it's that how you can make things happen, how you make changes based on the contemporary the challenges or the contemporary issues which need to be taken care of immediately. So how you respond to all those changing realities, and changing realities is something that women are the part of public space. Women are, and their issues are different day and night. People, women working in call centers, working in media, working in films, working in so many of these things. So they need to travel during late nights as well. So that's the changing reality that needs to be taken care of, and roads need to be. And she did it. She installed 9 poles, this thing, and now the area is this thing. The other issue is related to this insensitivity or something. So in municipal corporation, there are 4 important committees: improvement committee, education committee, standing committee, and best committee. So Rajul Patel, she's also a very dynamic person. She said that despite there are almost 60% women in the last current this thing, because this study was conducted during 2016 to 2018, and the strength of the study was that it could cover 2 corporations. So the tenure for the last corporation from 2012 to 16 that got over, and the new corporation from this thing also we could cover. So Rajat Patel said that women constitutes almost 60% of the elected representatives in BMC, despite none of these important committees. 4 important, there are many committees, but these are the 4 important committees where important decision related to the citizens of Mumbai happen. So she said that till date, none of women could head standing committee or improvement committee. And also, so this is something which is very shocking, that when women are in majority, women representatives are there, but then you don't consider women as something which are responsible, which have financial power or that competency. So this way, she said that none of these women could represent these important committees. One. Then there was this corporator from this region, Anjali Khedkar. She said that there are women heads in other committees, but then those committees like for the gardening and beautification of this Mumbai, you know. So, but then if there is woman chairperson, so her views are not given prominence. So it's something that men to women they will just talk rubbish. So it's like that their views are not taken seriously. So she has brought in this aspect that these are accountable, very senior representatives, women representatives, despite they have been facing these issues constantly. And they also talked about that many times during the course of their work in their area, they come across many insensitive BMC officers or the ward committee people. So that's something which is very problematic, and it hinders. These are the barriers in terms of that they are not able to work efficiently. So that also gets hindered. Then the same, there was this former mayor, Snehal Ambekar. She said, I could become a mayor because the post was not only reserved for women, it was reserved for SC women. So I could get an opportunity because the seat was. So all these narratives, they have validated the the significance of reservation, which has been in earlier studies also. There are earlier studies by Gelombe, by at Panchayati Raj level. There talks about that how reservation is something which is very important. Even if you are very educated, you have been exposed to the different kinds of the work, like management, as a manager, as a social worker, as a counselor, as a legal person. But then that is not sufficient. That will not considered as a competence. So once there is reservation, then only you will be allowed to enter into these. So these narratives, they talk about that how decisions related to budget, decisions related to these, what should I say, the finance, the safety issues, how they are important issues, and how when a woman representative is there, so how she does not only takes decision in this regard, but also her sensitivity to understand these things and then responding as per the situation. It's not something that these are not the part of the law book, then how I can do it, but then how you can. And so that is something which is very dynamic, which is very progressive, and which is not. So how that dynamism could be brought into leadership, and women leadership is something that provides that space. Besides, these people have said that how different issues related to the sanitary napkins, related to that the Save City campaign, the Right to Pee campaign, the toilet facilities in public space, because so how a public space could be more women friendly, gender friendly, and that is something that how women's representatives role as a corporator, as a MLA, as a MP is very important, and how we can head towards that. And this and these interviews were also something which have helped us think differently, the leadership, the role of leadership, and also it has recommended that how that sensitivity could be generated. So based on these interviews, the recommendations or the best practices which could be incorporated, like in the form of educational curriculums, which could also incorporate a chapter on women leaderships and their experiences as elected women representatives. So how those experiences are important, and that should also be included. So women leaders experiences at different levels should also be included in school curriculum, not only school curriculum, but right from the school level to high school, to junior high school, to higher education, and across. This is something which is the life skill and which should be included in across, whether it is law school, whether engineering, medical school. And for this, the interaction between municipal corporation, between leaders, and they should be invited to the campus to deliver. So that should happen, because politics should not be considered as an activity which is only suitable for men, or for that matter. So these role models are very important, and how those the perception of women leadership could be changed, how women as a lawyer, women advocate, women engineers, women social workers, women political scientists, they could also see that yes, this is also a career which I can look up to. So women leadership or political women should also be considered as a career, and that can happen when there will be a dialogue between these two. So all these stakeholders are important, whether it is municipal corporation, state government, school, college, institutions, or election commission. So all these bodies are very important, and there should be a continuous dialogue, that interaction which can inform, feed, educate about these things, and about the urgency of this thing, that yes, entry of women into politics, that is one, and feminizing politics, that how these sensitivities could be created in leadership. So whether it is men, women, or any gender, they should also be sensitive enough to take initiative, to take measures to respond to these newer challenges related to technology, related to cyberspace, related to transgender communities concerns, related to young women professionals concerns, related to the changing dynamics which has happened in the field of employment. So that's something that how that could be taken care of, how that could be responded to with an accountable leadership, which is people-centric, which is inclusive, which is sensitive enough. So that's something which is the whole lot of, it talks about many things, but I guess one more thing I just want to add, and then I'll just conclude, and that is about Community Participation Act. Since you all are from law field, so Community Participation Act is something which talks about that how urban governance or local self-governance, at least at the this municipal corporation or the city level, how it can be more decentralized, how people's participation is important, how their concerns, their interest, and how they can be included in the decision-making process, their concerns. So that is consultative mechanism. And this is through the Community Participation Bill or the Nagar Raj Bill. It talks about all these concerns, and also it talks about the establishment of area committees or area sabha. Like we have Gram Sabha at Panchayati Raj level, village level. And in Gram Sabha, all the citizens above the 18 years of age, 18 or 18 years of age, they are the members of this Gram Sabha. Similarly, that the same institution could be created in as an area sabha at this level, and how that is more important, and how that is a step which leads towards community participation or towards making this decentralized democracy workable, and also towards feminizing politics. That feminizing, it can make an accountable, a participatory and diversified leadership, and which is accountable for people's concerns, women's concerns, marginalized sections, society's concerns, and also it enables that response to the newer challenges which are emerging from different from the interaction of this space, like technology, employment, gender sensitivity, and all these things is something which is important. And urban space is something which is all these things which represent it. So I think with this, I'll conclude with one this slogan of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, which is educate, agitate, and organize. So that's the crux of this thing, which talks about inclusivity, which talks about participation, participatory approach, which talks about the inclusivity and the fabric which we have India, which in India, which is very plural, multi-ethnic, multicultural. And so that's something that how we can cultivate, we can nurture a habit, nurture something which talks about this educate, agitate, and organize. Thank you very much for patient listening. Are there any questions or any comment? I would be happy to respond to those.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Thank you for that amazing
technological.
seminar. That it was really great, and the case studies that you represented, and it was really, it gave me another insight into this. How in municipal corporation there are also some problems that are faced by women, and also the last word that you talked about, agitate and Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. It was really nice. And thank you so much for this address. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Sangeeta Desai. Ma'am, are you here? Ma'am?
Now I'm able to. Yes, I'm very much
Yes.
here. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Once again, welcome over here for this national seminar. Now, I would just like to introduce ma'am. So, Dr. Sangeeta Desai, she has acquired her doctorate in women's studies from SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Dr. Desai has also completed MBA from Jamnalal Balaji Institute of Management. She has done her graduation from Narsi Monji College of Commerce and Economics. She works as a consultant to various NGOs that work specifically on issues around women and adolescent girls. Teaching and research is her passion. She is currently visiting faculty at Sophia Center for Women's Studies and Development and KES Roth College. She has also taught at Research Center for Women's Studies at SNDT. Her expertise is in diverse areas of gender and development and has taught various subjects such as gender and economy, women governance, and decision making. Her expertise was taught by Preya's Center for Education and Research for Indian and Asian Students, Canada, for a transgender project in India. Prior to making transition to research in women's studies, she has spent 13 years in banking sector and worked with some of the major multinational banks like HSBC, Barclays, and First Rand Bank in reviewing their business processes, innovation microfinance products, and setting alternative delivery channels. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us here with today. Welcome, Dr. April.
Good morning.
Yeah, some light issues have been done. There's no light in our college today.
Okay. I think
So I
these are
thought
the
I'd
small
greet you
technical things that everybody has to deal with, but that's fine. I think we should be able to manage it as long as there is light at my place, at the speaker's place. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Over to you. You can start.
Okay. Thank you so much, Principal Ahirkar, for giving this opportunity to speak at the conference, national level seminar for gender sensitization, organized by, of course, MKLM's Adya Law College. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm going to speak on my favorite topic. To the students, to the young students, to the young women who are going to be the future of our country. So what a wonderful way to start a Saturday morning. And thank you so much. Coming back to the keynote addresses to when Principal Ahirkar told me that, okay, this is a seminar arranged for Nabard, I said, then I'm going to speak definitely on women entrepreneurship and rural transformation. So the focus, as I said, as of today's keynote is how women, through their capacity building interventions, use resource and agency and bring in not just economic transformation, but they are also rapidly changing the socio-cultural dynamics in rural India. So women entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, collective action, and social justice. So these are the key thrust areas that I will be addressing today. And to elaborate on this topic, I'm going to take the help of a case study of Mavim. Now, what is Mavim? If as a young students, you should know, Mavim is Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal, which is a state apex nodal agency for promoting self-help groups in the state of Maharashtra. Why do we have to talk about Mavim? Because the kind of transformation that has taken place over a couple of decades is phenomenal. It's phenomenal to the extent that this model of development, which is working in Maharashtra, has been proved successful year on year, and it has changed the lives not just at the individual level, but also at the family level, at the society level, and at the economic level. The kind of gender sensitization that has happened, and each homes of this rural place, we just have to go and visit to see the kind of confidence that these rural women execute, running their own small enterprises, having a say in their decisions in the family, and also the change that you see in their social perspectives, the way they are educating their own girls, sending them to school, ensuring that they are not married early. So these are certain changes that one can see when one visits these villages in Maharashtra. And I'm going to talk about the scale and the operations, but we have to, before that, I'm going to cover a little bit about the theoretical aspects. So as students, you might want to know, why are we focusing so much? Why are we talking so much on women's economic empowerment? Why are we talking about economic empowerment in rural India in the first place? So to understand that, we need to, look at the certain conceptual framework. Without looking at certain conceptual framework of empowerment, we really cannot understand how these models of development work at the grassroots level. So some theoretical models which have been established by economists, and then let's look the practice that is happening in the villages. So to quote the economist and Nobel Prize winner, Esther Duflo, I'm sure everybody knows Banerjee, from India, who got the Nobel Prize in economics for development economics. But we also should know that there is Esther Duflo, who was the second person who along with him wrote. And she says that, and this was long before they got the prize for their development theories. Now, what does she say about women empowerment? She says that, look, women empowerment is necessary not only for providing voices to women, yes, that is one of the things, but it is also essential for the economic development of the nation as whole. So if we have to progress as a nation, then we cannot overlook the economic aspect, the economic empowerment of the poor rural women. So secondly, what she talks about is that you cannot just talk about and leave. There has to be a continuous policy engagement, so policy will, which the government has to execute on a continuous basis, like a pledge that there has to be gender equality, there has to be a reduction in discrimination, and these have to be reflected in the policy level. So this is what the theoretical framework, if we have to look at. But if we look even at our constitutional goals, we look at this theoretical thing, but we also look at our constitutional goals, then we know that gender equality and gender justice and social justice are part of our constitutional goals. Now let us reflect back, take a step back and see, if these are our constitutional goals, then what has been our plans over so many decades since our independence? If the constitution has came in 1950, what have we done about it to bring in gender equality? And when we reflect at our 5-year plans, then we definitely know that the first couple of 5-year plans looked at women only as a as something like beneficiaries in the process of development. They were not looked as partners in the development process. So it was only later, after the sixth plan, women were started look as partners in the development process. And in 2001, although Maharashtra had the state empowerment policy way back in 1994, the national level empowerment policy for women came only in the year 2001. So what I'm trying to say is Maharashtra was much ahead, had the vision that such kind of policy is required at the state level if we have to make any changes at the ground level. Now, how do women become like when we talk about empowerment, and how do women become economic participants in the active, the word is active economic participants in the economy, especially, you know that India is an emerging economy, and we also know that the labor force participation has been declining year on year. And if you take 2011 census or 2001 census, or for that matter 1991 census, then you will see that slow decline that is happening in the labor force participation. Now, one of the way to address it is, considering the population of our country is so large, one of the way to address is through entrepreneurship and through self-employment. So you will see that the lately there has been a direction towards entrepreneurship and self-employment, that we are going towards that direction. So to ensure again that women become active economic participants, there are various schemes by government which have been commenced both at the center as well as at the state level. Now, skills training, capacity building, access to finance, financial literacy prominently feature in almost all our national level programs which are for empowering women. So the question is, what is capacity building then? What are the institutions at the ground level doing? Why is capacity building so important? Now, what capacity building actually does is it strengthens, it develops and it strengthens your skills, your instincts, your abilities, your processes, your resources that individuals and communities actually require to survive, to adapt, and to thrive. So without capacity building, the exercise of economic empowerment or social empowerment will not proceed. So you will see, even in the Nabard programs, there is a component for capacity building, because it is considered as essential in the programs, in the development programs. Also, capacity building is what we can say as a bedrock for starting the empowerment process and bringing in social change, and this has been accepted. Coming back to another theory which Naila Kabir has talked about empowerment, she says that empowerment is a process which can be it can be viewed as an ability to make choices. So there are two things that she's talking: ability to make choices, and that the fact that there are choices. So the two implied things are that a person has choices to decide. So for example, students, if you have taken up law, now there were other options to you and you decided to take law. So these are the choices that you had, and then you decided what choice you wanted to take. So had there been not any choices, then that would be like something forced upon and not a choice. The second implication about this definition is ability to make choices, is that you are capable of making choices. That means you are able to make those choices, and you are geared up to make those choices. And hence capacity building becomes necessary, because it gears you to make you confident of making those choices. So capacity building is a bedrock for empowerment process. on a rural context, because we are looking at the rural context. Now, here Naila Kabir is talking about the empowerment as a process, and it has got like 3 interconnected dimensions. Resource, so one is resource, second is agency, and third is achievements. Now, in rural context, if we are going to take, and I'm going to share my screen. Do I have the, can I share my screen? There is a small presentation that I have. So is it possible?
You sharing your screen?
Yeah, are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, it's loading. Yeah. Now we can see. Yes.
You're able to see. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So this is the empowerment concept or framework, which if you look at the left hand side, at the extreme left, you will see resources. Then in the middle, you have agency, and the third is the achievements. Now, what in the rural context, when we look at resources, it is access to credit, access to finance, access to a bank account, access to a trade, a marketplace where you can go and sell goods, access to regulatory and legal framework. Now, this is we can say resources. These are like preconditions, or these are like inputs required. Without these inputs, you cannot move to that process of empowerment. And what is agency? Agency is actually building up on these resources. So if you have a bank account, but you do not know how to operate a bank account, or you do not know how to do budgeting, or how to maintain your expenses, or how to do your costing, how to make profit from the loans that you have borrowed, then it's absolutely of no use, these resources. So that means the rural women's agency has to be built up. And how is that done? Through financial literacy, by giving her employable skills, or by giving her some entrepreneurship skills, by taking up training on entrepreneurship development, giving her skills of how to define one's goal, how to act upon it. So these are the kind of skills training which is done to build their agency. And then the outcome that one can see is, you can see through agency, through resources, then there is an increase in her assets. There is an increase in her decision making in-house. There is increase in her savings, in her commitment to savings. There is income growth. There is timely repayment of loan. There is a bargaining power within the household. What is bargaining power within the household? And we all would be knowing, but it's like telling that my needs are also equally important and has to be taken care of. And through studies, it has definitely been proved that when women have economic empowerment, they have a better say in the decision making of the family matters, having a voice in the family. So this is the empowerment framework that Naila Kabir, and we can correlate. Now, within this broad framework of economic empowerment, we have to look at the work structure and transformation which Mavim has brought in rural Maharashtra. So Mavim, as I said, is one of the models of development, which is similarly to the Seva model, and which was founded by Ila Bhatt. And why are we talking about Ila Bhatt is also because she was a pioneer of women's collective and of grassroots development. And she passed away last week, as you all would be aware. And we cannot talk about women's collective action without remembering Ila Bhatt. So this is a kind of a tribute to Ila Bhatt and the work that was done, and an example which inspired other development models across the country. Now, coming back to Mavim, it was established in the year 1975, which is again the Women's Year. It's considered as a Women's International Year by the UN. And it was the State Development Corporation of Maharashtra. It was initiated with the direction from Department of Women and Child, and it has a clear agenda. The agenda is empowering women. The primary goal is to establish social, economic, and political justice through sustainable development. So these are certain under certain goals that MAVIM has started. So what is the scale of operations if we have to look how far have they done? And the thing is that we need to know, because the sheer scale is huge. The kind of reach is huge, and it is huge obviously because it is a state run. So the scale operations, and they have partners like Nabard, who also does certain kind of monitoring. Certain schemes get translated through MAVIM, because it's the agency at the ground level. Now, how many SHG self-help groups have been formed? Almost 1 lakh. They have mobilized more than 15 lakh women into SHGs, and they have set up 406 community managed resource centers. Now, I'm not going into the depth of how SHGs are formed, because I'm assuming that you know what is an SHG. It is a self-help group formed in the villages where women get mobilized, and they get mobilized into action. Now, what verticals of MAVIM we need to understand, because they have clear cut, they have very various verticals, but grassroots institution building is one primary vertical. Micro livelihood programs for women, that is a second important vertical. Third is giving access microfinance, so linking these women who never had bank accounts, who never knew to go to the bank. They are getting loans. They are opening up bank accounts. They are doing financial transactions. They are saving, formal saving. You know, informal saving, everybody does this kind of chit funds and BSHs and all these kind of funds practices, everybody does. But formal savings, formal having a bank account, and it's very easy for us, probably in the cities, to say, oh, bank account open hone mein kya badi baat hai. But for a woman who never had a bank account, it's a very big thing. For a woman who never entered a bank, to go into that brick and mortar structure, it's a very big thing. To sign her name, you know, she probably knows only to sign, only that kind of financial literacy. But to know that is again a very big thing. So microfinance becomes another a very important vertical where women get trained as to what is a banking transaction, how do you do it, how do I operate my account, how do I save? Because without saving, you can't get loans. That's the bottom line in rural, in MAVIM or in the structure where there are self-help groups. First, you have to prove that you can have that financial discipline of saving. After you have done, enough proper saving, it can be 100 rupees a month. Collectively, women say there are 10 or 12 girls, or 12 or 12 women in that group, then everybody saves that. And then they go to the bank. There is a Sahyogini who is a development worker, just like an Asha worker who takes care of the nutrition and health aspect. Here, Sahyogini, which is appointed by MAVIM, she is like a development worker from the village itself, who actually mobilizes women, ensures that the meetings take place, ensure that there is a cohesion between the group, and then the kind of skills training that we talked about, the skills trainings are then start up. And gender, if you see, the gender is again an important vertical in MAVIM, and I will focus on gender and what kind of transformations they bring about. If I'm running short of time, just let me know if do we have time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we have.
Okay, fine. So this is the three-tier structure of MAVIM. If you can see that one is this self-help groups. This is the first level. Then second is the village level committees. which is the second level, which we can say. And the third is the CMRC, which is a community managed resource center. Now consider that there is a village and there are 10 or 12 SHGs in the village. Each SHG has got around 10 to 12 women members. Now, when it goes to the village level committee, why is a village level committee? Because this is actually a form of, giving power to the committee, to the women. It is like a decentralization, and the decentralization which Dr. Vatsala spoke in the previous lecture, which she said about. So this is also a process of decentralization where there are SHGs, there is a village level committee. In village level committee, each representative of one SHG will become a member of this village. So if there are 12 SHGs, then at the village level, there will be 12 members. This is just, it depends upon how many members, how many SHGs are there. Now, similarly, if there are 25 villages, then each representative of one village level committee will go and sit at the CMRC. Go and sit in the CMRC. I'm talking about it as a governance, as a governing body. So community managed resource centers, the very word means that it is managed, people's participation. It is the people who are running. It's the women who are running it. It's the women who decide what action they want at the end. So village level committee will decide, we do not have sanitation blocks. Let's push the Gram Panchayat to have sanitation blocks. We want to know how much money is being spent on the roads. They will push through that village level committees. They will push that, okay, we want good roads to be which connect us to the schools, so that our children or our girls have proper schools, or there are no toilet blocks in the schools. They will insist. So village level committee is basically at the development of that village. Community managed centers are, like, as I said, 20 to 25 villages. The women of these SHGs become members of CMRCs, and the CMRCs will then decide what actually these 20-25 villages women want, and accordingly take up things. Now there are lots of entrepreneurs who say that we want training on, say, beauty. We want, say, training on poultry. We want training on taking dairy, or we want to start up a dairy practice. So we want this kind of. So CMRCs, community managed centers, then will ensure, okay, do we have that kind of a budget? Initially, the budget used to come from Mavin. Now, 406 CMRCs, which I talked about, all of them are self-sustainable, self-funded. So this is kind of a revolution, how through people's participation at the ground level, how revolution happens. Economic revolution happens, and I'm going to show you certain businesses which have been formed by these women. If you see, there is the micro livelihood programs. So through micro livelihood programs, they get training, certain kind of training. So then dal mill. So dal mill at Malegaon. So they have this dal mill which is given to them on rent, and then these women procure dal, the unpolished dal, and then they sort it out and they grade it and they package it. And it's not just about packaging. The development officer of that entire district actually takes them to certain supermarkets of another district, if there are no supermarkets out over there, and they actually show how in supermarkets these packages are actually laid. So the kind of capacity building which we talked about is done also through hands-on experience. So these are the dal mill. So women come together and operate the dal mill, and even the machinery which these women get is through the government programs. So everything gets, like, it's rooted. It's a complex system, but a very well oiled system, which when there are people on the ground, they start demanding, okay, you have budget for this, why don't we get this? So women start asking about, questioning about their rights, questioning about budgets, questioning about the why their voices are not heard, and thus the change, the transformation that happens like this. If you see here, there is this Tejaswini Milk Collection Center where women are being trained, to collect milk, and then they are given instruments to ensure that the fat content in the milk is consistent. They are trained what time, how they will do it. Then they also start some sweet center. So this was one which is a milk collection center. I have also seen certain places where they collect the milk and then they make sweets out of it, maybe curd or ghee or some laddus, and they also keep in that milk collection center. They also side by side sell these kind of products to generate income. So income generating activities are varied. And here again, there is a milk collection. Then there is here, this is a feed for animals, so that animals, if you give nutritious food to the animals, then obviously and if you take care of them. So that kind of training also is given to the women, how to take care of the animals, what kind of nutrition should be given to them. There is something like goat farming, and probably I do not have a picture of that. But goat farming is a business which rural women are also, initially they used to die, the goats used to die, but now by the training, they know what exact feed has to be given, how there are paravets. So there, veterinary doctors are not so easily available, but there are paravets. So women themselves are getting trained in taking care of the small first aid kind of practices, which women are taught, and they are taking care of the goat's health, animals' health. Certain kind of vaccinations are also given by them. So you do not need a doctor to treat them, but certain pre-vaccinations are being trained by, they are called goat sakis, and that is also done. So this kind of a hand holding which Mavim does, which has resulted in starting up lots of entrepreneur activities among the women. Here it is a vermin compost which is being done. They have been trained to, and then this compost gets sold in the market. One reason, one of the things that women entrepreneurship or we can say the labor force participation is less in India. The thing is also because of huge amount of time which gets spent on unpaid activities, or we can say drudgery. Getting water from the wells. It's slow. Lot of time gets spent. When women's time gets spent in unpaid activities, then they have very less time for paid activities. And Mavim has realized that you have to reduce the drudgery, the chores, so that women get time for paid activities. And time poverty is something which Indian women are really, facing right now, because they do not have time to upgrade their skills, to learn new skill, and hence the economic opportunities get reduced. So by addressing time poverty through this, reducing the drudgery, Mavim is again taking one step closer. Now, coming back to, we talked about the economic transformation. What other transformation happens at the village level? There was a program which was run by Mavim, which was Ghar Do Ghan Se. That means the property belongs to two of them. And through this program, women insisted that, even their names be added in the property. They started asking for their share in the parents' property also. So these kind of realization, awareness of your legal rights, awareness that you can also ask, because otherwise women were, when I went to the in the field, women knew that they have equal rights in their father's property. Sometimes even in the cities, women are not aware, but in the rural areas, there is so much legal awareness through this training that gets done, that women are being aware of what is happening out over there. Like I said, they have started asking the gram panchayats They are engaging in local level dialogues. They know how to get a birth certificate, a death certificate, how to, what kind of if there is a Sanjay Gandhi Niradhar scheme, which is for widows, then they know how to access those schemes, because there are Sayoginis in the ground who have actually given them that kind of information training, which is required for them to be self-aware, to do certain kind of gender sensitization. A lovely program, and I'm going to end with that, but a lovely program which, people say, gender sensitization to ho gaya, lekin, again, people are still going, it's very difficult to do, change customs, change the social norms. And a wonderful program that I have actually seen uh, in villages, it's not just in villages, in urban cities also, when there is a birth of a boy, there is so much rejoice, there is so much of joy. And in girls, that joy or that happiness is not shown, and the mother of that child who is giving birth to a girl, uh, is down. How do you change this practice? And we also know that the sex ratio of our country in 2000 level fell down drastically, and we, as India, we were being criticized at the UN conferences, and we were questioned on the international forums that you have to do something about your declining sex ratio. But there is a very unique way of addressing it. You cannot change a thing overnight. And what Mavim did was, through SHGs, so there was and they do this practice on a regular basis. So the Sayoginis and the SHG members, whenever there is a birth of a girl child, that woman who gives birth is felicitated. In like a small program is arranged for her. She's given a sari. That little baby girl is given a dress, and she is given. There is a program which actually felicitates her, and there is a joy and happiness, and sweets are distributed, which otherwise in her family it wouldn't have been done. But because these women come together and they do this slowly and steadily, it's not overnight, as I said, but slowly and steadily, the mindset of the people start getting changed. Because here you see that there is a lot of joy, there is a sweets, the woman who is giving birth is felicitated. So that kind of on-ground action, which we see, which actually helps to bring in transformation, which is necessary. Last point I'm going to say is that gender sensitization is not a separate activity, but it is merged in all programs that are undertaken. And I think it's a commendable work which is done at the ground level by Mavim in bringing in social change and to ensure that women's voices remain strong, loud, and heard at all times. So thank you so much again, Principal Lahirkar, for giving me this opportunity to speak on a topic which is so very dear to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that amazing seminar that you did. And the economic aspect is much more connected when we go about gender sensitization. And once again, thank you so much for joining us here. I would like to welcome our next guest, Dr. Rajesh Khurana. Hello, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Welcome, ma'am, for this amazing seminar. I would just like to give a short brief about ma'am. So, Dr. Rajesh Khurana, she is Director, Women Studies and Research Center at Rani Durgavati University, Jabalpur, in Madhya Pradesh. Over to you, ma'am. Once again, welcome over here.
Thank you, Saurav. Thank you so much. I am very happy here to join for this address to all the students of MKLMS Adhaiya College of Law, Mumbai, and this national seminar sponsored by Nabard on gender sensitization for equity and social justice for women. This is a very, as our keynote speaker, I was just listening to her also, very beautiful presentation she has given, and she talked about detailed activities of MAVE in this regard. So, dear students, every time it is a very, very touchy topic when we talk about and talk only to our students and our faculties. It is not only students and faculties topic. In fact, it's a concern with the whole society. And we are very happy that higher education has taken a lot of initiative, and especially Mlani College, Mumbai, and Principal Dr. Jitendra Aherkar. Continuously, he's been organizing and looking after the benefit of girls, so and about their education. So I'm really very happy for his promoting all such activities and for giving me a chance to interact with her students. First of all, we are talking about this gender sensitization. Definitely, sensitization is a very, very important issue. And in our country, where we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and 75 years of independence we have celebrated. So it is so important, and still we are facing our old problem of this problem of equality. It's still persisting in our in whole country. We can see the impact in whole country. In fact, in last few years and during COVID pandemic time, this was on the peak. All type of violence, all type of problems, and so many things women and girls have faced. So, and everybody knows about it, what is actually going on in this scenario. Now here, this education, most important thing, which can play a bigger role in this, which is a crucial role which can play in promoting this so that we can enjoy the egalitarian commitment of our equality and justice, which is enshrined in the constitution. हम सबको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो हमारा इंडिया का है उसमें कहीं भी ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी भी तरह की इनइक्वालिटी की बात हो रही है या किसी भी तरह के हम लोगों को कोई अधिकार नहीं है। बड़े इक्वल अधिकार के साथ में सभी महिलाएं और छात्राएं, गर्ल्स सभी इसमें जुड़ी हुई है। परंतु एक्चुअल जो प्रैक्टिकल ग्राउंड है जहां पर ये चीज हमको एंजॉय करना चाहिए, और आज मेरे साथ में लॉ के स्टूडेंट्स हैं, सो उनके साथ में तो जो हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया है और जो वेरियस लॉज फॉर्म हुए हैं और जो टाइम टू टाइम यूजीसी ने भी बहुत सारे लॉज जो हमारी सक्षम गाइडलाइंस आई हैं, सब में बहुत क्लियर कट इंडिकेशंस हैं कि किसी भी तरह का वायलेंस, किसी भी तरह की इनइक्वालिटी कहीं भी किसी भी फील्ड में उसको आप नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि उसके अगेंस्ट बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग लॉ बने हुए हैं। पर किस तरह से लॉ जो है उसका यूज है, मिसयूज है, और इतनी बड़ी हमारी 50%, और हमारी इंडिया की तो देखो सबसे बड़ा डिविडेंड ही ये है कि हमारी जो पॉपुलेशन है, हमारे पास में इतने लोग हैं, और जहां पर हमारी 50% विमेन हैं, वो स्टेटस ही नहीं एंजॉय कर पा रही हैं इस डेवलप्ड, वी आर गोइंग टूवर्ड्स डेवलपिंग कंट्री से टू डेवलप कंट्री। जब हम डेवलप कंट्री की बात कर रहे हैं और डेवलपमेंट की ओर जा रहे हैं, बट हमारे बेसिक इश्यूज जो हमारी रूट प्रॉब्लम्स है वहीं पे हम लोग अभी अटके हुए हैं। तो हम कितने ही सेमिनार्स को ऑर्गेनाइज करें, हम कितना ही जेंडर सेंसिटाइजेशन की बातें करें या सोशल जस्टिस फॉर विमेन की बात करेंगे, जब तक हमारी खुद गर्ल्स और हमारी जो विमेन है वो खुद इतनी स्ट्रांगली एजुकेटेड नहीं होंगी, तब तक हम इस लड़ाई को बिल्कुल अचीव नहीं कर सकते हैं। उनको क्यों स्ट्रांगली एजुकेटेड का मतलब ये है कि वो ऐसा नहीं कि सिंपल ग्रेजुएशन कर लिया उन्होंने या पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कर लिया। एजुकेशन से ये है कि जो उनका इकोनॉमिक जो इंडिपेंडेंस है, जो इकोनॉमिक कैपेबिलिटी है, जो इकोनॉमिक डिविडेंड है, वो सोसाइटी को मिलना चाहिए, जो कि अभी नहीं मिल रहा है। कैसे नहीं मिल रहा है? क्योंकि हमारी एजुकेशन में गर्ल्स ग्रेजुएशन करती हैं, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन करती हैं, परंतु उनका जो राइट एक फोकस होना चाहिए, फोकस ये होना चाहिए कि वो अपना खुद का इतना अच्छा अर्न कर सके कि वो पूरी फैमिली को सस्टेन करने के लायक हो। अभी ऐसा नहीं है। अभी जो अर्निंग है वो बहुत लिमिटेड है, और बहुत जो हायर जॉब्स हैं उसमें उनका जाने की बहुत, अगर हम सोसाइटी का बिल्कुल लो स्टेटा इनकम ग्रुप लेते हैं, मिडिल वाला लेते हैं और हायर ग्रुप लेते हैं, तो हर ग्रुप में बहुत वास्ट डिफरेंसेस है, और इस वास्ट डिफरेंसेस को एक चीज से हम ठीक नहीं कर सकते हैं। अगर हमको अभी जैसे कि थ्रू दिस डॉक्टर संगीता कह रही थी कि जो विलेजेस को अपलिफ्टमेंट करने के लिए सोशल हेल्प ग्रुप्स बने हैं, तो वहां पर विलेजेस में तो खैर एजुकेशन बढ़ रही है और ग्रुप्स भी बन रहे हैं, और कोई भी लेडी या वहां पर ये नहीं कहती कि हम बिना काम के काम चला लेंगे। पर ये जो अर्बन फील्ड में जब हम आते हैं तो यहाँ पर जो डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर है और जो घरों में काम करने की जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज है वो कुछ हद तक तो हमारे मेल काउंटर पार्ट उसको शेयर करते हैं, बट होल सोल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी जो है वो एक लेडी के ऊपर होती है, एक विमेन के ऊपर होती है, एक गर्ल के ऊपर हो जाती है घर में। और उसकी वजह से उसका जो फोकस है वो जो राइट फोकस होना चाहिए टुवर्ड्स अचीविंग हर ओन गोल एंड टुवर्ड अचीविंग अ गुड जॉब, टुवर्ड अचीविंग सेटिंग अप अ गुड बिजनेस, वो उसका हमेशा डाइवर्टेड हो जाता है बाय फैमिली मेंबर्स। ये जो फोकस है जो फैमिली मेंबर्स के थ्रू डाइवर्ट हो जाता है, और वो कई बार मैंने देखा हमारे इतने गर्ल्स के हम कांटेक्ट में आते हैं, वो ये कहते हैं हमारे फादर हमको नहीं करने देंगे, हमारे ब्रदर हमें बाहर नहीं जाने देंगे, और ये सब चीजों से हमको उठ के आना है। अभी वो सिचुएशन कुछ हद तक वो हमको रिस्ट्रिक्ट करते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी जो कंट्री का जो सेफ्टी नॉर्म्स है जो हमारी गर्ल्स के लिए है वो उतना सक्षम नहीं है, उतना हार्श भी नहीं है कि पनिशमेंट की लोग डरें। अभी तो हम लोग मतलब जब किसी को कोर्ट केस करना पड़ता है तो उसी को समझ में आता है कि कितनी हैसल्स के थ्रू उसको जाना पड़ता है, वो भी प्रोसीजर सिंपल नहीं है। तो वो प्रोसीजर भी इतनी ज्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है कि वो लोअर कोर्ट से शुरू होकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक आपके गुड अबाउट 20 ईयर्स चले जाते हैं, और जो आपको जस्टिस मिलना है तो वो जस्टिस डिलेड इज जस्टिस डिनाइड वाली सिचुएशन होती है, एंड इतना इमोशनल एंड फाइनेंशियल आपको लॉसेस होते हैं कि बहुत कम ही लोग इस तरह से प्रोएक्टिव होकर इसमें काम कर पाते हैं। फिर भी बहुत खुशी की बात है कि बहुत सारी ऐसे ग्रुप्स हैं, ऐसी महिलाएं हैं और ऐसे ग्रुप बने हैं जिन्होंने, जैसे जब ये विशाखा गाइडलाइंस वगैरह आई थी तो इन लोगों ने इस तरह के एक्शंस लिए गए थे और जिसके आधार पर गवर्नमेंट ले लिया। पर यहाँ पर कुछ पॉलिसीज ऐसी डेवलप होनी चाहिए कि गवर्नमेंट को खुद ही ऐसे स्ट्रॉन्ग इनिशिएटिव गर्ल्स के लिए कर देने चाहिए, ताकि वो इस एक फियरलेस एनवायरनमेंट में अपने आप को प्रोग्रेस कर सकें। और ये सिर्फ हमारे जो एजेंडा है कि जो हमारा यूजीसी की भी कमिटमेंट्स हैं कि भाई हम लोगों को अपनी गर्ल्स को प्रमोट करना है, जेंडर इक्वेलिटी की बात करनी है, और जो मार्जिनलाइज सेक्शंस है हमारा सोसाइटी का उसमें से भी उनको एक्सेस और सक्सेस की तरफ ले जाना है। तो ये जो है ये इसके लिए समय समय पे जो भी टास्क फोर्स गठित होती है, परंतु जब तक ये ट्रू सेंस में जब तक इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं होंगी तब तक हमारी विमेन और उनकी जो भी एक्टिविटीज से रिलेटेड जो हमारी बातें हैं वो सब बिल्कुल बेमानी सी हो जाती हैं। और हमको अगर इन सब चीजों को अच्छे से अचीव करना है तो सारे के सारे हमारे जो लॉज हैं उनमें बहुत बहुत ज्यादा चेंजेस लाने की भी बहुत जरूरत है। हमारे लॉज को इसलिए बदलने की आवश्यकता है कि जो इतना लंबा टाइम है इसमें जो प्रोसीजर है, और राइट फ्रॉम जहां आपकी कहीं आप कंप्लेंट कराते हो, कंप्लेंट से लेकर जब तक वो आपकी केस डायरी पुटअप होती है कोर्ट तक, ये जो सारी हरासमेंट्स हैं इसका कोई इन लोगों को एक ऐसा सिस्टम डेवलप करना पड़ेगा। और आजकल तो टेक्निकल और डिजिटाइजेशन का जमाना है और ऑनलाइन से भी आपकी कंप्लेंट्स हो जाती हैं, तो इन सब चीजों को आपको बहुत एनहांस करना पड़ेगा। एज ए लॉ स्टूडेंट आपका ट्रू कंट्रीब्यूशन होगा अगर आप जेंडर इक्वालिटी के लिए, सोशल जस्टिस के लिए कुछ नई रिसर्च, कुछ नए लॉज कुछ सजेस्ट कर सकें अपने रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्स के माध्यम से कि क्या होना चाहिए, क्या हमारे लूप होल्स हैं हमारे इसमें लॉ में, और क्या हमको इनमें रिफॉर्म्स लाने की जरूरत है, सो दैट हम जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज हैं उनके उस पे लेवल पे आ सकें। अभी रिसेंटली मैंने रशिया को विजिट किया था कंट्री, और वहां पर मैं कैलिनग्रेड गई थी। हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी ने, वहां की कैंट बाल्टिक यूनिवर्सिटी है, बड़ी फेमस यूनिवर्सिटी है जो कि बाल्टिक सी, कैलिनग्रेड जो कि जर्मनी का कभी पार्ट रहा था, तो उस यूनिवर्सिटी को देखने का मौका मिला। और वहां पर मैंने वहां पर इस तरह का कोई इशू नहीं देखा। गर्ल्स हैं वहां, बॉयज हैं, बहुत अच्छे एनवायरनमेंट बना हुआ है, सेफ्टी नॉर्म्स इतने ज्यादा हैं कि आप बस में ट्रेवल करो, आप टैक्सी में ट्रेवल करो। एक मौका मिला जब मुझे रात के 12 बजे कहीं से टैक्सी लेके घर पहुंचना था, तो मेरे मन में बहुत इनसिक्योरिटी थी कि ये ना तो वो लैंग्वेज आपकी समझते हैं, ना आपको रशियन लैंग्वेज आ रही है, आप कैसे कम्युनिकेट करोगे उनसे, क्या बोलोगे, कहाँ ले जा रहे हैं डायरेक्शन। बट ये थैंक्स टू दिस डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी जहां पर पूरा ट्रैक होता है और आप कहाँ मूव कर रहे हो, क्या हो रहा है, एंड ट्रांसलेशन इज अवेलेबल। अगर आपको कुछ पता करना है तो आप जस्ट गूगल ट्रांसलेशन की मदद से आप उसको फोन पे वो सब चीजें दिखा लेते हो और वो समझ लेता है बंदा। तो इतना मतलब माइंड में बीइंग इंडियन इतनी इनसिक्योरिटी थी, बट एट द सेम टाइम वो बंदा बिल्कुल इतना मतलब जिसको हम कह सकते हैं कि उसका कंसर्न सिर्फ इतना ही था कि जिस पॉइंट से उसने आपको पिकअप किया है उस पॉइंट पे ड्रॉप करके और आपको थैंक यू बोल के चला गया। सो ये चीज हम इंडिया में बहुत मुश्किल से सोच पाते हैं। तो अभी जब हमारा इतना बढ़िया डिजिटल और टेक्नोलॉजी का जमाना है, तो इसमें गर्ल्स को बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि कुछ इस तरह की चीजें डेवलप करने पे काम करें। और जो घर के जो रूटीन हमारा फोकस है, जो हमारे हाउस होल्ड एक्टिविटीज का फोकस है, या जो हमारा सिर्फ एक मैंने देखा कि गर्ल्स हैं तो मतलब या विमेन है तो खाने पर उसका पूरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होल डे की है। एंड इंडिया का खाना इज 3 टाइम्स जो है वो पूरा आपका किचन पे ही ध्यान रहता है। सो ये जो किचन के ध्यान से हटके हमको कहीं साइंस, मैथ्स, टेक्नोलॉजी और कुछ ऐसे एडवांस फील्ड की तरफ जाने की जरूरत है और अपने माइंड को ओरिएंट करने की जरूरत है। एक जो हमारा माइंड डिटैच नहीं होता फ्रॉम आवर हाउस होल्ड एक्टिविटीज, फ्रॉम आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, उस माइंड को भी जैसे मेल काउंटर पार्ट हमारे करते हैं कि जब वो घर से बाहर होते हैं तो वो सिर्फ बाहर ही होते हैं, उनको दे आर नॉट कंसर्न्ड अबाउट द फैमिली, अबाउट द वाइफ, अबाउट द चिल्ड्रन, वो बिल्कुल अपना फोकस अपने वर्क पे करते हैं। तो उसी सिमिलर पैटर्न पे हमें गर्ल्स को भी अपने ब्रेन को इस तरह से डेवलप करने की जरूरत है कि उनका फोकस जो है वो टुवर्ड्स अचीवमेंट हो, हायर अचीवमेंट के लिए हो। अभी उनका पोटेंशियल काफी है, बट जो पोटेंशियल जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा डाइल्यूट हो जाता है। और यही हमारा सबसे वीकेस्ट एस्पेक्ट है, जो हमारे इवन जो हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वहां भी ये सब चीजों की हमें बहुत कमी महसूस होती है कि वो हमें हमारे गोल को पहुंचाने तक में मदद कितना करते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी क्लासेस इतने ज्यादा लेक्चर्स चलते हैं, इतने ज्यादा थ्योरी पे बात होती है, परंतु जो हमारी ओवरऑल ग्रोथ और जो पर्सनैलिटी डेवलपमेंट की बातें हैं वो वहां पर बहुत कम होती हैं। सो हमारी जो एजुकेशन है उसका जो हमारी अपनी प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ है, जो विमेन की प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ है, और उसके जो एस्पेक्ट्स हैं उस पर उतना ज्यादा हम लोग समय नहीं दे पाते, एंड वी आर जस्ट सराउंडेड बाय द फैमिली एंड फैमिली मेंबर्स एंड बाय फ्रेंड्स। तो यहाँ पर बहुत जरूरी है कि फैमिली मेंबर्स एंड फ्रेंड्स की वैल्यूज जो हैं वो तो रहेंगी, परंतु आप सबका एक एम, आप सबका एक फोकस ऐसा होना चाहिए कि आप इस चीज को ग्राउंड लेवल पर इरेडिकेट कर सको। बिकॉज आप सब लॉ वाले स्टूडेंट्स हो और सारे बहुत अच्छे से डिटेल में सोशल जस्टिस एंड जो हमारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस में जो जो हम लोगों को जो हमारे ह्यूमन राइट्स हैं, उस ह्यूमन राइट्स को हम कैसे ट्रू सेंस में अचीव कर सकें। और ये जो यूएन में बार बार सवाल होता है कि भाई इंडिया का जो सेक्स रेशियो है वो डिक्लाइन हो रहा है, एंड जो गर्ल्स के बॉर्न होने पे इतना सेलिब्रेशन नहीं किया जाता है, तो उसकी कुछ बहुत सॉलिड वजह हैं, क्योंकि हमारी जो गर्ल्स हैं वो उतनी कैपेबल नहीं है जो कि पूरी जो हम एक लड़के से एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं। एक लड़का जो होता है वो पूरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले लेता है, वो बहुत अच्छे जॉब में भी आ जाता है और वो अपनी पूरी फैमिली मेंबर्स को सस्टेन कर ले जाता है, उनको लुक आफ्टर कर लेता है। सो जब गर्ल्स इतनी कैपेबल हो जाएंगी, जब उनका कैरियर इतना अच्छा हो जाएगा, और जब हमारी सोसाइटी की इकोनॉमी में 50% कंट्रीब्यूशन आ जाएगा। अभी तो हमारा 10% कंट्रीब्यूशन भी है, बट वो बहुत लिमिटेड कंट्रीब्यूशन है। हमारी महिलाएं काम करती हैं, जहां हमारे पुरुष 1 लाख 1.5 लाख के लिए काम करते हैं, हमारी महिलाएं सिर्फ 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 के लिए अपना पूरा दिन, सेम डे जहां पर वो 2 लाख का पैकेज लेते हैं, हमारी जो गर्ल्स हैं उनकी अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के साथ वो 30, 40 ऐसे उसमें ही रह जाती हैं। तो यहां से हमको ये जो फोकस है, अपना जो डायनेमिक्स है, उसको हमको यहाँ से शिफ्ट करना पड़ेगा, और एक हमको कॉन्क्रीट वे में पूरा जो इश्यू है जेंडर सेंसिटाइजेशन का, जो हमारे कैंपसेस में रेगुलरली होता है, इसका कुछ ऐसा आउटकम बनाना पड़ेगा कि हम जो पास्ट एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं कि क्या हो रहा है, क्या चल रहा है, उसको साइड में रखें। जो 21st सेंचुरी में क्या चेंजेस हमको अडॉप्ट करने की जरूरत है, क्या हमको बाहर के जो मॉडल्स हैं उनमें से क्या बेस्ट लेना है अपनी कंट्री के लिए, हमारा फोकस और हमारी एजुकेशन उस तरफ होना बहुत जरूरी है। और तभी जाकर हम लोग ये सारी इस तरह की जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, जो कि सेल्फ और सोसाइटी के द्वारा ज्यादा क्रिएटेड प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, उनको हम एड्रेस कर पाएंगे। तो यहाँ पर आज मेरा आप सभी लोगों को बस यही कहना है कि सोशल जस्टिस हमारा ह्यूमन राइट का बहुत बेसिक वो है हमारे लिए, हमारे अधिकार क्षेत्र की चीज है, और हमें मेल काउंटर पार्ट्स को, फीमेल काउंटर पार्ट्स को, फैमिलीज को, बच्चों को राइट फ्रॉम बर्थ से ही हमें ये सब चीजें, वैल्यूज इस तरह से इनकलकेट करना पड़ेगा कि हम एक डेवलप्ड सोसाइटी बहुत जल्दी, जब हम बहुत तेजी से स्टैनफोर्ड के टेक्नोलॉजी को अपनी यूनिवर्सिटीज में अडॉप्ट कर सकते हैं, तो इतना तेजी से हम विमेन की इंप्रूवमेंट की बात क्यों नहीं कर पाते? विमेन इंप्रूवमेंट के लिए हम इतने फास्ट रिफॉर्म्स क्यों नहीं ला पाते? क्यों हमारा 33% का एजेंडा आज भी क्लियर नहीं है? ये सब बहुत सोचने के विषय हैं कि क्यों हमारी गवर्नमेंट, जब हमारे इतने ज्यादा यंग गर्ल्स के साथ में रेप केसेस होते हैं, उनके साथ में इतना वायलेंस होता है, तो उस वायलेंस पर ये लोग कैसे इतने शांत बैठे हुए हैं? कैसे हमारा ये जो मेल डोमिनेटेड सोसाइटी है वो कैसे टॉलरेट कर लेती है? उनकी टॉलरेंस कैसे है इस चीज के लिए? ये एस्पेक्ट को हमारी 50% जनरेशन को, हमारी 50% विमेन्स को इसमें आगे आने की जरूरत है और बहुत ड्रास्टिक स्टेप उठाने की जरूरत है। कुछ ऐसे रिसर्च में आप लोगों को ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट्स करने की जरूरत है जो कि हमारी लॉ की जो भी कमियां हैं या जो भी उसमें रिफॉर्म्स लाने की जरूरत है उस दिशा में काम करें। तो बहुत अच्छा हुआ, क्योंकि हम बहुत ज्यादा पास्ट के एग्जाम्पल लेके या जो पास्ट के मूवमेंट्स हैं, हमारे वुमेन मूवमेंट्स हैं, उनके बेस पे हम 21st सेंचुरी की कल्पना नहीं कर सकते। विद दिस आई थैंक डॉक्टर जितेंद्र अहेरकर फॉर इनवाइटिंग मी for today's address, and all the member of college. Thank you so much, and all the dear students who are listening to me. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words and enthusiasm on women and women's empowerment issues. Students, I would like to quote you one thing here. The director madam which you are looking here today is Dr. Rajeshwari Rana. She is the director of Rani Durgavati University, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. And we are having an MOU and collaboration with ma'am as well as from the university. So whatever programs we do in future or certification courses, madam help us to take it forward and helping our college too. Madam, these students are our law students today, especially which we started this year only. So this is the first batch of law. We got permission in 2020, so we started now. So our college too knows you very well because we have done many webinars. So, but today the crowd which you are looking here is a different one. So from Adia College of Law, with a part sister concern of our same institution, I would like to thank you for being collaborated with us, being associated with us, and many more to come. In fact, next week only we will be having gender sensitization certificate course along with Rani Durgavati University, Women's Studies and Research Center. So we'll hope that we again will come back next week only from 16 to 19 and we'll having the same program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jiten, for your kind words. And I'm really happy to know that this is your first year students. And I'm sure they will bring a lot of changes in the legal system also. They'll be the pioneer in setting all the new designs. Thank you so much.
With this, we will go ahead for the next session. We will be having a small video presentation of Nabard to understand how Nabard works and Nabard functions. This program is sponsored by National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. So we should come to know what Nabard is and how Nabard helps in all the sectors of the society. Gender sensitivity is one of the sector where Nabard works prominently, and this was very relevant to the legal field of the colleges. So we decided for Alia College of Law that we have gender sensitization and social justice for women issue. We'll have a small presentation of Nabard in between, and then we'll go ahead with Nilima Srivastava's presentation. Thank you.
India is on the move. Driven by aspirations of economic growth and powered by its youthful energy. And behind this phenomenal rise of the new India is the contribution of rural India. The growth of rural India is in fact powered by specialist institutions. The National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development is a sterling example of such specialist institutions in the development story of the nation. Come, let us take you on the journey of Nabard on the canvas of rural India, a journey of several milestones. Nabard was set up on 12th July 1982 as India's apex development bank for serving the development aspirations of rural India. It started out as a refinancing institution for rural credit, but over the years has branched into multiple sectors related to the rural economy. This expansion is a testimony to the diverse demands of rural India and the ability of Nabard to match the same through policy planning and project execution. It all started with refinance, a tool for giving fillip to both short-term credit and long-term capital investments in agriculture. Nabard took up a scientific approach for understanding and assessing the credit requirements of Indian agriculture. It developed credit planning systems to maximize credit flow. In the recent years, new generation financial products have been introduced by Nabard in association with RBI, such as the Rupee Kisan credit cards. Refinancing long-term agricultural projects for capital formation has been a continued theme. Nabard, with the help of its technically qualified staff, developed model schemes for diverse sectors like animal husbandry, plantation, and horticulture. At Nabard, we realized early on that development of rural infrastructure is critical for rural development. It has the power to spark local economies. The Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, RIDF, set up with Nabard in 1995, has today blossomed into one of the largest channels for funding infrastructure projects in rural India. It has supported investments in areas like irrigation, rural roads, bridges, and modern warehousing facilities, among others. Irrigation is often called the very lifeline of Indian agriculture. The Long-Term Irrigation Fund, established in Nabard by the Government of India, is one of the most ambitious mechanisms in the history of Indian agriculture. Its main aim is to ensure timely execution of incomplete irrigation projects. Post-harvest management through creation of adequate storage capacity has emerged as a huge national priority in the recent years. Nabard's financial support has led to creation of modern storage space and enabled price discovery for farmers. Promotion of best practices in farm and off-farm sector is embedded in Nabard's mandate. It is perhaps the only institution in the country to have established and continued the tradition of building domain-specific funds. The Farm Sector Promotion Fund facilitates transfer of technologies to boost agricultural production, while the Watershed Development Fund and Tribal Development Fund support soil and moisture conservation and productivity enhancement, leading to better livelihoods. Nearly 1,800 projects have been supported across 1.9 million hectares in 22 states under Watershed Development Fund. The Tribal Development Fund has reached deep into the tribal heartlands to introduce suitable fruit trees, intercrops, micro-irrigation, agro-processing, and organized marketing. About 600 TDF projects in 26 states have benefited 500,000 tribal families. The Indian farmer is typically a small farmer with a tiny land parcel. This translates into small marketable surplus and inadequate returns for his produce. Nabard sees formation of farmer collectives as a solution to this quagmire. 150,000 farmers' clubs have been set up by Nabard in association with banks and NGOs across India to act as catalysts of change. Alongside, there is a determined effort being made to set up farmer producers' organizations for efficient input purchase and marketing of their produce. Global warming is a new reality of our times. Nabard is aware of the impact it can have on agriculture and has evolved models which are in sync with ecology. It has earned the accreditation of being a National Implementing Entity (NIE) under national and international climate finance funding mechanisms for overall project implementation and monitoring of the climate change projects in India. An old Indian saying states that gods reside where women are respected. At Nabard, we have cherished women empowerment as a major organizational objective and made it a central theme of every development project. Not surprisingly, our flagship project in this area, the Nabard SHG Bank Linkage Program, is today the largest microfinance program in the world, covering more than 95 million poor rural households. In the new digital world, Nabard has initiated a project to bring self-help groups on a digital platform called eShakti. Under the Financial Inclusion Fund, Nabard has undertaken financial literacy campaigns through various stakeholders in rural India. The fund has also been used extensively to propagate financial technology among the resource-poor banks. Another silent revolution started by Nabard running across India is the Joint Liability Groups program, which enables farmers and rural lessees to access farm credit even though they are not title holders of the land. Over 2 million joint liability groups have been promoted, and credit dispersals to these groups has seen a consistent rise. Off-farm sector holds the future for a significant portion of rural communities. Nabard has evolved several refinance and promotional schemes for the development of off-farm sector in response to ground-level requirements. Skill development and promoting entrepreneurial culture among the rural youth have been key components of Nabard's support. Alongside, Nabard provides marketing opportunities to rural artisans and producers by sponsoring their participation in exhibitions across the country. Rural financial institutions are a vital ingredient of India's growth story, and Nabard sees them as a critical part of the Indian rural credit system. Each year, Nabard undertakes nearly 300 inspections of rural financial institutions across the country, and in the process, helps them develop sound banking practices. Alongside, Nabard works steadfastly towards building their internal capacities and bringing professionalism into their organizations and operations. Nabard has brought more than 200 cooperative banks with nearly 7,000 branches across the country fully into the CBS platform through cloud computing. This will ensure government subsidies and payments directly into the bank accounts of its customers. Taking up such a diverse portfolio of responsibilities requires matching infrastructure internally. Nabard works through a nationwide network of regional offices to meet these challenges. At the district level, district development managers of Nabard work with stakeholders ranging from informal groups to district administration to banks, while the regional offices are the biggest partners in progress of their respective state governments.
Being the apex financial institution and being a developmental financial institution, you have to work with various entities. to solve problems of farmers, agriculture, rural development. And Nabard has seamlessly worked with state governments, central government, non-governmental organizations, as well as some of the people's representatives in panchayats, etc., to carry the mandate of development forward. This endeavor for developing rural areas as per their aspirations, we have large number of youth, so demanding a lot of new things in rural development. And we are gearing Nabard and the entire rural credit system for effective delivery, for fulfilling rural aspirations and enhancing farmers' income.
There is a belief that the banyan tree is great not because of its trunk, but because of its offshoots. Nabard stands by this belief and by its partners who enable it to reach out to rural India. State governments with their line departments, banks, multilaterals, bilaterals, NBFCs, over 4,000 civil society organizations, nearly 150,000 farmers' clubs, universities and corporates who share Nabard's vision of rural prosperity. But our most important partnership is with those whom we seek to help. The millions of rural Indians who dream of equal opportunities and economic prosperity. These dreams and their fulfillment have been the pole stars of our enriching journey. Nabard, Development Bank of the Nation for fostering rural prosperity.
You see, I was talking to one of my friends.
Hello, everybody. So before moving on forward, I would just like to talk about the papers that we received via this national seminar. We received all around 10 papers, and I will just give you a short review of these papers. So the first paper that I'm going to talk about, it is about the honor killing, a crime against humanity. It was given by Dr. Archana Padgaonkar. She is the assistant professor, Department of Business Law in KJ Somaiya College of Science and Commerce. So in this paper, Dr. Archana Padgaonkar, she is talking about how honor killing has been done in India and what are the different types of honor killing that happen over here. So she has also talked about the religious barrier. She's also talked about the caste-based system. She's also talked about people's mindset. And she has also written about the judicial responses. She has given example of few of the cases. For example, the Arugam Servai versus the state of Tamil Nadu. In this case, the Supreme Court strongly depreciated the practice of Khap or Kata Panchayats, which is taking law into their hands and indulging in offensive activities which endanger the personal lives of persons marrying according to their choice. So, honor killings are what? These are shame killings, which were so called by the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in his address to General Assembly Special Session Women in 2000. Gender equality, development and peace for 21st century was on 5th June 2000. They perpetrated due to various reasons. They range from supposed illicit relationships to killing women for marrying men of their choice or expressing a desire to choose their spouse. So this paper gives insights how there are, there are different types of honor killings, and the conclusion of this is we have to look forward for these shame killings. So now I would like to introduce our next guest, that is Nilima ma'am, Dr. Nilima Srivastava. Welcome, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me? Hello. Ma'am?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Now we can hear you. Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am.
Yeah.
I would just like to introduce you to all our students. Yes, ma'am. Moving on. So Dr. Nilima Srivastava, she is a trained social worker from the Department of Social Work, University of Delhi, and she received a PhD from the University of Lucknow. She is a professor with IGNOU and former director of School of Gender and Development Studies. She is involved in teaching, training, and research. Her earlier engagements have been with the Department of Social Work and Women's Studies and Development Center, both at University of Delhi. At the Women's Study and Development Center, she headed a major research project on the girl child in India that was carried out in collaboration with 5 other institutes in North India. She has been invited by many institutes as a keynote speaker and guest of honor, including chief guest for the convocation by Surjabai College of Education, Mumbai. Her publications include 3 books and several research papers in national and international journals. She is also reviewer of internationally acclaimed journals. She is widely invited to take sessions on gender issues and conducts training programs and workshops on gender sensitization and research methodology. Once again, a warm welcome, ma'am, and over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, your mic is it is on mute, ma'am.
Actually, I am in Dubai, so there is some confusion about the time and the new place. But I'm on it. I'm trying to connect from a computer so that I can also use my PPT. I have already sent the PPT. Is that with the?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that with Gmail? So otherwise,
yes, it is with the principals. Yes.
Yes. Can it be shared? Because then I leave the computer and make my presentation through my mobile only. Because everything is coming in Arabic and I feel lost.
Okay, definitely, ma'am. I'll just make sure we can share your presentation from here only. Just a second, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll try to guest. Anyway, can you make it English, please? So let me thank, first of all, Amlani College. Can you make it English? This is Arabic. For giving me this opportunity to speak to the participants and share my views on today's topic, that is gender sensitization and social justice. I want to go on Gmail. And I would also like to compliment Nabard for giving so much opportunities to the women at the grassroots for their financial inclusion. Because from, I think, 1992 onwards, Nabard has been doing this wonderful job of providing microcredit at the grassroots level for those women who had absolutely no access to any kind of microfinance or financing loan facility and the banks were not able to provide them loan because they were not owning any documents. So that's how the journey of microcredit in India, microfinance in India started with the initiatives of Nabard. So my compliments and for the good work that they have done in the field. Now, coming to the topic of today's discussion. So as a valedictory speaker, it makes it very difficult for me to come up with something new for the participants, because you have been through the event for quite some time. And I was wondering as to how to go about it.
Ma'am,
Then
can I share your PPT?
Of
Sorry to
course,
disturb.
of course. So then I thought that let me give you a gist, an overview, and keeping women and work as the center of focus, because Nabard has been instrumental in promoting women's work. So in my presentation, which is a slide here, I will be talking about why do we have to talk about gender sensitization and its related thing, that is social justice, especially for women. Then what are the dimensions of gender discrimination, followed by the domains, and I will be touching upon other domains and focusing on work per se, and what are the barriers that women face and how we can ultimately achieve social justice by developing by making people gender sensitive. And this brings to my mind that Nabard has again made a new initiative, in the sense that after giving or after providing financial assistance to women at grassroots, now they have started talking about gender sensitization among the youth and at the university or college level. So we hope that when gender sensitive students go for their everyday living, then they are able to influence others in the society, so we can look forward to a more gender just society. So another hats off to Nabard, and we move on to the next slide, please. Can we move to the next slide, which is, hello, can you move to the next slide? Anyway, so what I wanted to show through the next slide is that earlier there was a proverb which used to say that no all work, no play made Jack a dull boy. But now in 21st century, we also say that no work, no play, all work make Jill a dull girl. What I mean to say by this is that not only boys, but in today's time, girls are equally equipped and should be provided with opportunities to participate in labor force, or should be part of the economy if we have to be a developed country. The next slide, I have shown some of the statistics and the extent to which women are lagging behind and why there is a need for gender sensitization. You can see on the slide or on your screen that women form 1/2 of the world's population. 50% of humanity consists of women, whereas they perform 2/3 of the work performed in the whole of the world. Can you see? 50% population performing 2/3 of the world's work. But unfortunately, they receive only 10% of the income. And if we look at the resources that they own, they are further lower in percentages. We can see that they receive only 10% of the income and they own only 1% of the world's property. So this is an indication that how women's work is not valued, is not recognized, and it is not being given the value it should be given. Coming to the next slide, in which I have shown the representation of women in decision making. And that's an Indian scenario. According to the latest estimates, there is only one female IAS officer for 20 men IAS officers. Can you see the disparity here? Just one, in spite of the fact, if you can recall, that girls have been topping the IAS list for past many years now. 4 to 5 years, girls have been the top rankers. But when it comes to representation, we just find one female officer for 20 men IAS officer. The situation is little better if we look at Panchayati Raj institutions. And thanks to 92nd amendment, which ensures 33% reservation for women. And in some states, it has been risen to 50%, looking at the success and the effectiveness of women elected representatives at the grassroots level. Now, when we come to representation in the parliament, we find that out of 680 seats, only 103 seats are with women parliamentarians. So you can see what a low representation in parliament. And there has been a bill pending for many, many years now, which is about reservation of women in parliament too. But unfortunately, it is not being cleared. And if we talk about the Council of Ministers, it is a very, very minimal representation, that out of 70 ministers, only 11 are women. So what I want to share with you here is that women are not seen in decision-making fora and decision-making capacities. So until and unless women are part of the decision-making, there cannot be a good perspective that can be shared with the policymakers. So representation and inclusion of women in decision making is a very, very important means of bringing about gender equity in society. Now, coming to the next slide, which talks about, after all, what is the need for gender sensitization programs or the whole idea of gender sensitization. We have all seen that the country has made phenomenal progress in the area of socio-economic development. With that, we see by way of increase in life expectancy. We started at about less than 50 years of age when we became independent in 1947. And then now at present, the life expectancy of Indian citizens is 72 or 73%, and for women it is even higher. And literacy rates have also gone up, but we are still lagging behind in that we have not achieved universal literacy. The gross the GDP has also gone up, which we can see by way of looking around us, that people have more purchasing power, they are spending more on their everyday needs and their lifestyles. There has also been a decrease in infant and child mortality rates, maternal mortality rates, and even in fertility rates. We have almost achieved replacement level. That means the number of people who die and the number of babies born is almost same. In fact, it is going lower now. That's a matter of worry. But there are a few indicators which are still a matter of concern for us, and one of them is adverse sex ratio. Sex ratio means number of men per thousand women. So for 1,000, according to census of 2011, there were only 934 women for 1,000 men. Thankfully, because of the government efforts and a change in the attitude, there are estimates that the sex ratio has improved, and we have nearly the same sex ratio for both men and women. But the child sex ratio still remains a matter of concern, which is a very, very powerful indicator of prevalence of gender discrimination in our society. So, girl child, if you look around you, especially in the lower sections of the society, is subjected to inequality, disparity, and neglect. मतलब एक लड़की को समाज में, स्पेशली छोटे निचले तबके में, उसको इनइक्वालिटी का सामना करना पड़ता है, उसके साथ हमेशा भेदभाव का भाव रहता है और नेग्लेक्ट भी रहता है, मतलब उसका ध्यान ही नहीं दिया जाता उस पर। एंड अगर वो लड़की पॉवर्टी में है, अगर वो गरीब घर से है, तो उसका डिस्क्रिमिनेशन बहुत बढ़ जाता है। It becomes more many times over. And you must be very familiar with the picture that I have put up here. That most of the time in the lower section of the society, we find that the girl child is made to do a lot of housework, and she is responsible for right from cooking to washing of utensils, and you never know whether she gets a full meal for herself at the end of the whole chain. So we see that daughters are taken as net liability because they take away a lot of dowry at the time of their marriage. And so her labor in the family is not valued because she is considered as a temporary member of the family. कि भाई ये लड़की है, ये तो बड़ी हो जाएगी, ये अपने घर चली जाएगी। और सबसे दुर्भाग्य की बात ये है कि वो अपनी फैमिली में ये होता है कि ये पराया धन है, और जिस फैमिली में वो मैरी करके जाती है, वो समझाते हैं भाई ये तो दूसरे घर से आई है। So for a woman, there is no permanency and there is no home per se. She is considered an outsider, whether she is in natal family or in her marital family. So that is the most unfortunate part with many of the women and girls in Indian society. Then we also see that the prevalence of female feticide or infanticide. Infanticide जब होता है जब लड़की को उसकी बर्थ के बाद neglect से या willfully she is killed, and feticide you all know is भ्रूण हत्या. It is before she is born, the fetus is aborted. So अगर हम इन्हीं दो प्रैक्टिस को देखें तो हमारे को बिल्कुल समझ में आ जाएगा कि जेंडर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, जो भेदभाव है, जेंडर के बेसिस पे जो भेदभाव है, वो इंडियन सोसाइटी में किस तरह से व्याप्त है, किस तरह से फैला हुआ है। और ये भी देखा गया है कि इस टाइप की कंडीशनिंग, द कंडीशनिंग ऑफ अ गर्ल that she has to be serving the other, her needs are the last one to be taken care of, ये उसकी साइकी में, ये उसके दिमाग में बचपन से ही बैठा दिया जाता है. So by the time she grows up, she carries on with the same values and pass on the same values to the next generation. So the kind of discrimination that she has faced, she neutralizes it, she accepts it as part of her fate, or that is how the women live, and the treatment and the attitude is perpetuated generation after generation. As a result, the women themselves start devaluing their own self, including their labor. अगर अभी मैं आपको एक एग्जाम्पल बताऊं कि आप अपनी मम्मी से या अपनी दादी और नानी से बात करके देखिए, तो वो कभी इस बात को क्वेश्चन नहीं करेंगी कि घर का काम सिर्फ महिलाओं को ही करना है. कोई कहेगी ये तो महिलाओं का काम ही है, ये तो नेचुरल एक्सटेंशन ऑफ अ वुमन है. Whereas now we know that अगर कोई लिख के थोड़ी आया है कि नहीं जी घर का काम महिलाएं करेंगी और बाहर जाने का काम जेंट्स करेंगे या मेन करेंगे. And incidentally, in the next slide again I will talk about it, that even if a woman is going out of the house for work, she is the only one who is accepted, who is expected to be carrying out all the household responsibilities. और इसके सब जितनी मैंने अभी आपसे बातें शेयर करी, उसके पीछे एक ही रीजन है, and that is of son preference. कि हमारी सोसाइटी में लड़के को इतना प्रेफरेंस दिया जाता है कि लड़कियां को कभी वैल्यू ही नहीं किया जाता. Boys are valued because of boys are valued because they are supposedly be taking care of the old parents, and also because of the cultural practices associated with the boy children, that they will be performing their last rites for them. So can I have the slide back please? Yes, thank you. तो आपने देखा कि सन प्रेफरेंस के चक्कर में लड़कियां जो हैं वो बेचारी डिस्क्रिमिनेटेड रहती हैं. they are they are placed at a lower level in the hierarchy within society, और उसको neglect भी का सामना करना पड़ता है. अब अगर हम इसके नेक्स्ट स्लाइड देखें, तो आज की सिचुएशन अगर हम देखें तो हम ये देखेंगे कि एक वुमन की लेबर जो है वो अभी भी इनविजिबल है एट मेनी प्लेसेस, एंड ऑल्सो इट इज अंडर वैल्यूड. आप किसी भी एक आम फैमिली से पूछ लीजिए कि अगर घर में महिला जो है वो होम मेकर है, if the woman in the family is a homemaker, she is not going out for work, और तुम घर के जेंट से पूछो कि मम्मी क्या काम करती हैं घर में, कुछ नहीं, ये तो बस घर का काम करती हैं. सो घर का काम करना is no काम करना. काम करना means that you have to get you have to earn money, you have to get a paycheck, or at least add to the family resources, financial resources. तो वही काम है. तो हमारी वर्क की डेफिनेशन ही जेंडर्ड है, जो मैंने सबसे नीचे बात कही है कि वर्क का मतलब ही ये समझा जाता है कि वो पैसा जनरेट करे. काम करना मीन्स पैसा जनरेट करे. अब मैं आपको अगर मैं एग्जांपल दूं कि विमेन की जो लेबर है वो कैसे हिडन लेबर है. भाई to give you a very simple example, अगर घर का जो आदमी है वो काम पे जा रहा है तो उसके जाने के लिए, काम पे जाने के लिए सुविधा कौन प्रोवाइड करता है? खाना बना के देना, घर साफ करना, लॉन्ड्री करना, घर का सामान लेके आना, ये सब काम तो महिलाएं करती हैं ज्यादातर पीछे से। तभी तो एक व्यक्ति जो है वो अपने काम पे आराम से पहुंच पाता है। पर उस लेबर को जो एक वुमन ने प्रोवाइड करी है फॉर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर अ मैन टू गो फॉर वर्क इज नेवर रिकग्नाइज्ड। ये क्या है? तो रोज का काम है, इसमें क्या काम करना है? या इफ आई गिव यू अ मोर a different example from the economy point of view, where I put up here like a milkman. I don't know बॉम्बे में कितने लोगों के घर दूध जो है वो मिल्कमैन देने आता है, but all of you must have been seen milk being sold other than the bottles and the packets which are available now in India. So who is selling the milk? The milk is being brought to the shops by the man. So that is why we say milkman. We दूध वाला दूध देके चला गया. No, I'm doing it on my this thing. Doesn't matter now. So पर उसके पीछे की लेबर किसने होती है? Who takes care of the cattle? Who feeds the cattle? Who washes the cattle? Who washes the utensils in which जो बड़े बड़े बर्तन जिसमें कि दूध इकट्ठा किया जाता है और फिर कैंस में डाल के the man is taking to the market. So वो सब लेबर जो है is provided by the woman and which remains hidden, not valued even. Nobody will pay for the labor that has gone in getting the milk. The milkman will be paid for the milk only. So this is how the women's labor remains hidden in many other ways, which we can discuss sometime when we are in face-to-face situation or by the end of my session today. So मैं पूरी बात में ये बताना चाह रही थी आपसे कि अगर एक वुमन एम्प्लॉयड है तो उसका स्टेटस इस बात से जाना जाता है कि इर्रिस्पेक्टिव वो कितनी ही ऊंचे ओहदे पर हो, कितनी ही हाई पोजीशन में हो, पर उसका घर का जो काम है वो छूट तो नहीं रहा, उसमें कोई कमी तो नहीं आ रही, उसके बच्चों की केयर में कमी तो नहीं आ रही. And to give you a very interesting example here, a long time back, इंदिरा नूरी ने एक इंटरव्यू में शेयर किया था कि when she became the CEO of Pepsi, you can imagine कि आज से 15-20 साल पहले कोई एक woman, and that too a woman of color, brown थी, but फिर भी she was not a white woman, अगर वो CEO की पोस्ट पे पहुंचती है तो क्या अचीवमेंट रहा होगा यूएस में. So she called up her mother to give her the big news that mom, I have been appointed the CEO of the company. So before she could share this news, her mother says, while coming back, get some milk. She said in the interview that her mother would have never asked her husband to do so. But because she is a woman and she's supposed to be taking care of the house, she was immediately told, कि भाई दूध लेके आना है ना. So her daughter had become a CEO of Pepsi Cola. What was important? That there should be milk at home and daughter is responsible. So this is the kind of conditioning that has happened with us, and it is there in most of the countries. It is not like this. Only thing is कि Asian countries में अभी भी जो gender stereotypes हैं वो बहुत ही गहरे हैं. They are very deeply ingrained in the psyche of people. There is some change in the Western countries, and we see that there is a greater acceptance of household labor or participation in household labor in Scandinavian countries, but in no country all over the world the situation is in balance. Women perform more housework, they given more work for unpaid labor than men in the whole of the world, पूरी दुनिया में. और मजेदार बात यह है कि जो एम्प्लॉयर्स हैं वो कैसे देखते हैं, वो उल्टा देखते हैं कि कौन सा एम्प्लॉय, चाहे वो वुमेन हो चाहे मेन हो, वो घर से कितना खाली है, how less responsibility he or she has from the family. So that is the irony, that women have to be judged very, very steeply, or they are judged very narrowly, both at home, कि भाई तुम घर में काम कैसा कर रही हो, काम कंप्लीट करके जा रही हो, क्यों नहीं जा रही हो, पर घर तो नेग्लेक्ट नहीं हो रहा. और वहां पे एम्प्लॉयर चाहता है कि 100% ये मेरे को एम्प्लॉयमेंट में लीजिए, जिससे कि मेरा जो सरप्लस है, जो मेरा जो सरप्लस कैपिटल है, वो कम ना हो. तो इसका जैसे मैंने बताया था कि वर्क एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, वर्क जो ये काज की संस्था है, अगर हम इकोनॉमिक्स में के टर्म्स में देखें एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, देन इट इज अ जेंडर्ड इंस्टीट्यूशन. इट इज geared towards a male worker. वो सारा का सारी संरचना जो है वर्क की, वो एक मेल को रख के की जाती है कि a male, if male can do this, a male will be required to do this, and by default a woman has to do what is expected of a male employee. Thankfully थोड़ा सा चेंज आया है because of the COVID, कि now we see work from home situation, and now we also see flexi timings जो हम पहले कभी भी नहीं सोच सकते थे. But उसके पे भी the women are more at a disadvantage. अगर work from home होता है तो मम्मी is available all the time at home, so every now and then all the demands are placed before the woman of the house, and ये एक्सपेक्ट होता है कि भाई हाँ, अब तो मम्मी घर पर है तो हमें खाना भी अच्छा मिलेगा, खाना भी बार बार मिलेगा, नया नया मम्मा बना बना के देगी. और ऑफिस वाले कहते हैं कि काम में कमी नहीं आनी चाहिए, योर प्रोडक्टिविटी शुड नॉट गो डाउन. तो अल्टीमेटली द बर्डन कम्स ऑन द वुमेन. अगर हम कंपेयर करें लेबर फोर्स पार्टिसिपेशन को दूसरी कंट्रीज से, even our neighboring countries, we find that India's labor force participation is much lower than that of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka also. हमारा सिर्फ जो है वो अब 23% बचा है, जबकि 35% जो है वो अदर डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज में है, और वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में तो it is as high as 48-49% also. And in some of the countries, it is 51% too, I have read. But in most of the developing countries, it is around 35%. That means only 35 women who are in the age group of being productively employed, that is 15 to 59 years. The age group में से सिर्फ 100 में से 35 women जो हैं वो इकोनॉमी में के साथ जुड़ी हुई हैं. विदर लेबर छोड़ दीजिए, वो तो ऑल विमेन वर्क. दिस इज अ यूनिवर्सल स्टेटमेंट. सब महिलाएं काम करती हैं, और कुछ महिलाओं का काम हिडन रह जाता है, अंडर वैल्यूड रहता है, नॉट वैल्यूड होता है, और कुछ जो है वो नेशनल अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम के अंदर अकाउंटेबल हो जाती हैं, जिनको हम गिना जाता है. इसका जो रीजन है वो यही है कि जो ट्रेडिशनल वर्क एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं, जो मैं आपको बता रही थी. मेरे पास टाइम है ना अभी, प्लीज जब मेरा टाइम खत्म होगा तो प्लीज मुझे बता दीजिएगा, आई विल वाइंड अप अकॉर्डिंगली. सो इसका जो रीजन है इसके पीछे वो यही है कि जो ट्रेडिशनल वर्क एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं, जो डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर इन अ हाउस होल्ड है, वो अभी भी ट्रेडिशनली चला जा रहा है कि घर का काम जो है वो महिलाएं करेंगी, और बाहर का काम जो पैसे अर्न करने का काम है वो पुरुष करेंगे. पर महिलाओं के पास जो है वो वर्क बर्डन बढ़ता चला गया क्योंकि उनको बाहर का काम भी उसमें ऐड हो गया, पर घर के काम में उनके लिए कोई ऐसी राहत नहीं है कि जो सब्सटेंशियल हो, और शी कैन ऑल्सो टेक इट इजी. So in the next slide, I will share with you the trend in the world and in India about a wife taking up work. तो आप लोग को मजा आएगा देखकर कि अब की पूरे वर्ल्ड में अगर हम देखें तो हम ये देखते हैं कि जब एक ILO की एक स्टडी हुई थी तो उसमें ये बताया गया कि महिलाओं से जब पूछा गया, when women were asked would they like to be participating in paid work, so 70% of the women said that they would like to participate in paid job, whereas 66% men said that yes, they would agree that women in their families should be participating in paid labor. But when same question is looked at the statistics available for India, it is very, very disappointing. Only 52% of the women said that they are willing to be part of the paid labor. So women themselves devalue them. वो खुद अपने आप को की सेल्फ वर्थ इतनी लो समझती हैं, वो अपने को समझते हैं कि नहीं हम इसके लायक ही नहीं है, हम ऐसा कर ही नहीं सकते. Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you, but can you please wind up in the next 5 minutes?
What I can do so, not a problem.
Yes.
That's why I asked
Yes.
you. So
Yes, yes.
In the same in the next slide, we have talked that majority of the Indian men said कि अगर किसी को नौकरी छोड़नी पड़े, गिव अप करना पड़े, तो हम महिलाओं को ही सबसे पहले जो पेड लेबर है, जो इकोनॉमी से बाहर आना चाहिए. सो अभी हम ये देखकर ये बात बिल्कुल साफ समझ आती है कि अभी भी विमेन के साथ जो है वो बहुत डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी प्रैक्टिसेस जो है वो एम्बेडेड है हमारी साइकी में, हम लोग के एक मनस्थिति जैसे बोलते हैं हिंदी में, और हमारे दिमाग में बसा हुआ है कि जो अर्निंग का काम है वो एक मैन ही करेगा, और जो घर का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज है, केयरिंग एंड नर्चरिंग है, दैट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ अ वुमन, which also becomes a societal barrier for her, which I have shown. I'm not able to see the slides, but in next two slides I have talked about the barriers that women face at the level of organization and also at the level of society, and most of them I have already covered. कि भाई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वाले चाहते हैं कि एक आदमी की तरह काम करे, औरत कहीं भी कोई वो नहीं होना चाहिए, and over and above women are subjected to sexual harassment at workplace. It is not that men may not face it, but it is predominantly faced by women, which is an added organizational barrier for women workers. So if we conclude today's discussion, we can say that कि अगर हमें अपनी सोसाइटी में सोशल जस्टिस को लेके आना है, सोशल जस्टिस का मतलब ये कि जो न्याय है, जो एथिक्स हैं, वो मेन और वुमेन दोनों पे ही एक जैसे अप्लाई हो, कि अगर जो एक्सपेक्टेशंस हम मेन से रखते हैं, वही प्रिविलेजेस, वही एक्सपेक्टेशंस, वही फैसिलिटीज, वही बेनिफिट्स विमेन को मिलना चाहिए. तो हम ये कहते हैं कि ये सोशली जस्ट सोसाइटी है, एक जेंडर जस्ट सोसाइटी है. तो अगर हमें जेंडर जस्टिस कायम करनी है, लानी है, तो हमें जेंडर इक्वालिटी को प्रमोट करना पड़ेगा. और सोशल जस्टिस के जो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं कि एक्सेस टू रिसोर्सेज should be available to both men and women, और इक्विटेबली जब जिसको जरूरत हो वो रिसोर्सेज और बेनिफिट्स को यूज कर सके। पार्टिसिपेशन, जैसा मैंने शुरू में बताया था कि पार्टिसिपेशन डिसीजन मेकिंग इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दिस थिंग। एंड लास्टली द अपहोल्डिंग ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स, कि जो ह्यूमन राइट्स हैं वो बोथ मेन एंड वुमेन को इक्वल मेजर्स में देते हैं। तो अगर हम इन चारों कंडीशंस को, प्रिंसिपल्स को फॉलो करते हैं और अडेयर कर सकते हैं, तो हम ये कह पाएंगे कि हमारी सोसाइटी एक जेंडर जस्ट सोसाइटी हो गई है और हम जो है वो जेंडर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन से ऊपर उठ चुके हैं। और इसके लिए सब लोगों को मिलजुल के, ऑल द स्टेक होल्डर्स have to work hand in hand to promote gender sensitization and work towards a gender just society. So with this, I thank you all for being with me here today in today's conference and listening to me. And I hope that you would have understood that how important it is for all of us to be gender sensitive and also be part of making society gender just. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that amazing presentation. And thank you so much for removing time when you were so busy in Dubai. Thank you so much.
Nilima ma'am, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. It took some time to settle. Finally.
How is in Dubai?
Dubai is good. Back to normal.
I might be coming on Tuesday.
You might be coming. So by the time I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll see you. I'll see you in the when we are crossing, when our airplanes are crossing each other.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.
I take
Thank you.
all the best to the organization.
Thank you so much, everybody. I would just now like to give the vote of thanks. I would like to thank on behalf of the management, our principal, and our staff to all the participants and the resource person who gave their presentation over here. And I would like to conclude our seminar today. Thank you so much.